This one choice will decide your next 5 years. It was a late, foggy evening when he stood on the edge of the cliff, staring into the abyss below. The wind whipped through his hair, and the sound of distant waves crashing against the rocks below only heightened the tension in the air. A single decision lay before him, one that would change everything. 5 years. It was hard to fathom how something so simple could have such a profound effect on his future. But here he was, caught between a choice that felt so small, yet could dictate the path of his life. You see, in life, it's not always the big, loud decisions that matter most. It's the ones that happen in the quiet moments, like this one, that shape your destiny in ways you can't imagine. The one you make now, in this exact moment, is the kind of decision that will echo in your mind for years. What if I told you that everything you've worked for, every dream you've chased, could hinge on one simple, almost unnoticed choice? What if that choice was waiting for you right now, lurking in the background of your everyday life, disguised as something trivial? The twist? No one really sees it coming. You're just one decision away from walking a path that either takes you closer to everything you've ever wanted or leads you to a place of deep regret, where the doors that once seemed open now slam shut in your face. Can you feel the weight of it? The quiet pressure building, the world waiting to see what you'll choose. But don't be fooled. This choice isn't about what you think it's about. It's not about who you know, how much money you have, or what opportunities are within reach. It's about something deeper, something you haven't even considered yet. So here's the question you need to ask yourself, and I want you to really think about this. Are you ready to make the decision that could decide the next 5 years of your life? What happens next will shock you. You won't believe how it all unfolds. It had been a normal day, the kind where everything felt predictable. He had a job, a routine, friends who were all moving in the same direction, towards something bigger, brighter, more certain, or so they thought. Yet in the back of his mind, there was always that nagging feeling. Something just wasn't clicking. He was at a crossroads, although for the longest time he didn't realize it. His decisions had always seemed easy, decisions that appeared small enough to not matter in the grand scheme of things. He went through life making choices that felt like the natural progression of things, nothing out of the ordinary. But that evening, on the edge of that cliff, he would learn just how deeply those choices had shaped him, or rather, how they had already been shaping his future without his knowing. Back then, it seemed innocent enough, little moments that could have been brushed off as insignificant, choosing to go out one night instead of staying in and reflecting, taking the safer route in life, following the same path as everyone else, taking comfort in the predictable. After all, the road everyone else was walking must have been the right one. Or was it? The first thing he didn't realize was how much he had been running from his true calling. Maybe it wasn't fear. It was more like avoidance, as if he had the right answers but wasn't brave enough to follow them. There were opportunities right there in front of him, but he didn't have the courage to act. He thought about the future, sure, but only in terms of goals everyone told him were worthy. Just get the job, save money, marry the right person, then everything else will fall into place. But that's where it starts to get interesting. You see, the real turning point had been when the right choices no longer felt right. It wasn't something loud like the jarring sound of an alarm or the crashing of thunder in the sky. No, it was more like a whisper, so soft, so subtle, that he almost didn't hear it. The desire to do more, to be more, to live outside the lines of what had been laid before him was now the choice he had to make. This was when the universe started nudging him. A seemingly random conversation with a stranger. A book he stumbled upon by chance. A late-night text from an old friend. All tiny sparks, like all pointing him in the direction he wasn't brave enough to consider before. All these seemingly trivial moments added up, urging him to move forward, to step into the unknown. But fear is a funny thing, isn't it? It wraps itself around you like a warm blanket, tricking you into believing its safety. It made him feel like it was easier to stay where he was, doing the same things, rather than stepping into the unknown. The fear of failing, of making a choice that could derail everything he had worked so hard for. But deep down, he knew. He knew this was the moment when something would either change or nothing would change at all. That night on the cliff, something within him finally clicked. It was no longer just a choice, it was the choice, the one that would decide everything. As the wind howled around him, the voices in his head began to clash. One side argued for security, for the safe route. The other, stronger, louder, spoke of freedom, of risk, of the life he wanted but was too scared to live. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and the world felt like it stood still. This wasn't just a choice between two options. It was a choice between the life he had and the life he could have. And that moment, it would decide his next 5 years, the next 10, maybe even the next 50. He opened his eyes and looked out across the horizon. The fog was clearing, the moonlight illuminating a new path, a path he had never seen before, but one that felt right. It wasn't an easy path, but it felt real. And for the first time in a long while, he felt something he hadn't felt before: hope. When he finally took that step, everything began to change. Small decisions led to bigger ones, each one propelling him further from the life he thought he had to live and closer to the life he was meant to have. The job didn't come right away, neither did the riches. But something else appeared. Clarity, purpose, a deep satisfaction with the choices he had made. You see, that choice to step away from the safety of the familiar isn't just about taking a risk. It's about choosing to live fully, with intention, regardless of the obstacles in your way. It's choosing not to live a life of regret, looking back at the past 5 years, wishing you had acted sooner. He learned that life doesn't always offer you the path you expect. Sometimes it gives you a choice disguised as something uncomfortable, something that seems risky. But it's in that discomfort, in that moment of hesitation, that you find what's truly meant for you. It's not the obvious choices that define us. It's the ones we don't see coming, the ones that seem small, that almost blend into the background of our day-to-day lives. But when you take a moment to stop and reflect, when you truly understand the weight of your choices, you realize that one decision could change everything. As he walked away from the cliff, feeling the weight of the choice he had just made, he knew it was just the beginning. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but it would be his road, a road built on the choices he would make every single day. So let me ask you this: what's your cliff moment? What is the one decision that, if you made it today, would completely change the trajectory of your life? You don't need to know everything. You don't need to have all the answers. But if you can take a moment right now to decide, will you choose the life you've been told to live? Or will you choose the life that feels real, that feels yours? Comment below with one word that describes your cliff moment, the decision that will define your next 5 years. I want to hear it. And don't forget to like and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. Because if there's one thing that could change your world, it's this. Sometimes it's the smallest decisions that lead to the biggest transformations.